was when New York did its first official lockdown. And I watched a crew of 80 people shooting a show called Bar Rescue, which I've done 20 times now. And that was my 20th episode I was shooting in Scottsdale 8 weeks ago, 7, 8 weeks ago. And I remember in the midst of all this happening, watching the impact nationwide, worldwide, and just to see how in such a short period of time, it went from, okay, only 2 weeks, guys, and come back and we'll meet you all on the road again. And 2 weeks now is rolled into 7 weeks. And somebody asked me in an interview the other day, and I've done a lot of interviews, and what I've learned is, originality, authenticity is really coming through in this time. And, I shot the Today Show 2 weeks ago at my house. Joy did it in her house on her book. By the way, I love the book. Thank you so much. It means a lot that you sent that out to us. But somebody asked me, they said, what are you getting most out of this? What do a couple of years from now, when you look back, what do you hope you learned from this experience? It's first of all, blessings to be alive. I've lost 4 friends. 4 of my friends have passed away through this. And one of them passed away really, really fast, right in the midst of it. And I said, I'm so lucky that I've got to become the father that I've always wanted to become. I've never been with my daughter more than I have in 7 weeks than in our whole life of 2 years and 3 months. And I've never had my daughter run down the hallway and said, Daddy, and heard her say it without me leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning to head to an airport. So if there's a silver lining of things that come out of this, I've grown as a husband, I've grown as a dad, and I've grown as an entrepreneur. And I just want to say cheers to that.
Oh, cheers. That gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, that was so beautiful, Ryan. And I think so many people are feeling exactly that. And you're so right in terms of like being a better entrepreneur. I think like we've all learned, we don't need all the bells and whistles. We can be scrappy. We can get stuff done. And you know what? People are very forgiving. I think they're just like hungry for your information. It doesn't have to be fancy and wrapped up with a beautiful bow. You just need to deliver it and get out there.
But it's also, and somebody asked me the other day, and maybe this is a question for the entrepreneurs and just people just in life in general right now. And a lot of people ask me, well, how are you handling this? And I said, well, first and foremost, I stayed home. When my governor in the state of California that I chose to live in, I listened to him. I obeyed by what he wanted to do, and him and Cuomo have definitely flexed a muscle, Governor Cuomo, that I'm honored to live in a state that our governor, and whatever we want to believe in any way we want to do it, I believe that our governor has saved more lives. The problem is it's a double-edged sword, because if he didn't go by that and we lost more people, then he would have done wrong. But we live in a beautiful state. We live in a state that a lot of people are being able to flex their entrepreneurship. At the same time, I stayed home for 2 weeks and I let it sink in. I let it sink in that I lost 2 friends in the first 2 weeks. I let it sink in that my friends like Joy and other friends in New York City, Zach and Yosef, I had 2 of my friends that stayed home that were on the show that contracted COVID. Our very dear friend Dylan's husband, Brian contracted it. And, there was a point when I came home from Salt Lake City, and I thought I contracted it. And it took 9 days to get my test back because Marin County, where I live, didn't have tests yet. And I remember sitting in my car and crying. And I'm like, this isn't it. This is not going to be it. And then I found out the next day my friend Floyd died. And I said, no, this is not going to be it. But what I did was I stayed home and I had my feelings with my wife. I listened to people who said, what this has happened, what this has allowed is communication. My wife and I talked about it. We talked about our finances. We talked about our safety nets. We talked about if we go this long, where are we? We just bought a new house in October and it allowed communication. And my wife and I are having dates again. But it also allowed me to sit back, gather my thoughts instead of jump real quick and put my money into something that was short term. I'm putting my time and my money into long term. I want to make sure what I'm developing today, just like these amazing wines that take time, I want to make sure what I'm doing is the same thing you guys put in this bottle. It takes time to process what's happening. And it's a true gift to be able to have that. And I think it's powerful these days.
I think a lot of people have gained huge perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like you said, there's so many situations, right? We all kind of entered this time with our own personal stuff. And, I was going to say, like, Aurelian had his mother here visit. Well, she's still here because she couldn't go back to France. So, you know, she came to see her son. And so they've been enjoying some fun. Like, what have you been baking, Aurelian? Are you baking some crepes or something good and French and hearty?
I won't share what I've been baking because you don't want to see below.
Aurelian, there's a reason why I got a scarf on, bro.
Drinking a bottle of wine every night and eating, home cooked meals and baking croissants or breads or, like you said, crepes or anything. Yeah, it's for sure. It's been quite fun. But no, for what you're saying, Ryan, it's interesting because everybody's perspective are different, and the fact that my dad was stuck in France on the road to Switzerland, and essentially had to say to my mom, "You got to stay there for now. It's too crazy for you to go home." And my mom had a hard time the first 3 weeks. She was depressed and she just couldn't really function. I'm gonna get emotional, but it was the first time apart of each other for a long time. Like my mom and my dad have been married 42 years, and it's the first time that they've been separated, and not because they wanted to. So it's kind of like interesting to see that dynamic, and by the time, as time went on, they found ways. My dad got an iPhone, and my sister put FaceTime, and he calls my mom on FaceTime. I mean, you would have never thought that my dad, 70 years old, would know how to use FaceTime, and he knows now, So there's always, like you said, silver lining to it. It's been quite fun, and I wish I could do more things with her besides just staying home and playing cards or playing Yahtzee or something like that. But it's been nice to have her around for sure.
That's awesome. Speaking, because we're coming around the corner of Mother's Day, and our partner Carol, who we all kind of consider our mother as well, she's on, but she's not on video. But I thought this would be an appropriate time and a great little segue to say, for Kirk or Brett, one of you guys to share a little bit about Carol's song Riesling, because some of you may be enjoying some of the Riesling that we made, and that is a new addition to our portfolio.
Yeah, Brett, do you want to go?
Sure. Yeah. The Riesling is it comes from the same vineyard that Kirk was mentioning, the Teston vineyard. Got a very small portion of Riesling planted pretty much in the perfect spot to plant Riesling. Kind of a cooler area near the water, which is an ideal spot to plant Riesling. And yeah, last year, 2018 was the first year that we actually bottled that Riesling, and then 19 being the second. And we usually do about 100 to 150 cases of it. It's a really unique wine. There's probably a handful or less of Napa Valley producers that are making quality Riesling, and I feel like the stuff that we're putting out here at 1111 is hands down in that top 5. It is a dry Riesling, low alcohol, beautifully aromatic. Really, really crisp acidity. Absolutely stunning on a nice cold day. It's a wine I think that is extremely exciting to have in our portfolio, and like I said, is tough to find in Napa. There's great examples in Europe, great examples in New York, Washington. But like I said, in Napa, there's not too many, and I think we're doing a great job with it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful wine. It's really fun to make. This is the first Riesling I've actually had the opportunity to work with, and we were very excited to put it in the ground. Like Brett says, it is pairing so wonderfully with shellfish, and I had it with fish tacos 2 nights ago with cilantro and zest, and it was just lights out. It's stainless fermented, it's neutral oak aged, and then back up to stainless for a fairly quick turnaround of about 5 months, and then we go right to bottle with it. But it was kind of a nice eye opener of what we could do, with the right grape on the right site. And fortunately for us, that Oak Knoll piece is a cool enough site to grow a varietal that requires something to that nature to have an interesting palate and effect. You know, you put any grape on a boring site, it's just going to tell you how boring it is. But if you put the right grape on the right site, it really wakes up, and you can capture the magic of that. That's the beauty of, I think, what we have with Destin, also the Trancas Vineyard, the Lockheed's Vineyard, some nice sites in Oak Knoll.
Yeah, I think the Riesling too is something that's for us is gonna evolve as well. It's like this is our first foray into making Riesling, and it's there are a number of ways to make Riesling. Like I said, I think it's, you know, moving forward it'll evolve, but I think the first two vintages that we've bottled are great examples of how great this wine can be and will be.
So thank you guys. I don't know, we'll have to make sure that Joy and Ryan, you get a taste of this. This is one of our newer ones.
My mouth is watering. I love listening to you all describe, you know, the different wines and how they come about, and it's super cool.
I also think it's super cool too, and I just want to point this out, and I've been 1111 fan since I met you guys, but this is very rare. This is very rare, and Kirk, you can see your name there, and I know I'm getting a little blurry, guys,
Yeah.
but you know, it takes a team to build things, and I think during COVID we've all learned that. But 1111 takes a lot of people to make it happen, and you know, I love the wine because of you guys, and I love the wine because the wine and the whole experience together. Sometimes dining without great food and great service is nothing, and you guys are really the circumference and really everything of what hospitality and what great hard work is. And to give kudos to the winemaker on a bottle is like, I love that. Major cheers to that.
Oh,
I
awesome.
appreciate that.
Awesome.
Thank you for
How
saying
about the
that.
little poem in the back of the bottle, Ryan? Do you like that as well?
The what?
The little poem, the little saying in the back of the bottle.
I've got 2 bottles in my hand. Do you think I can read a poem with these glasses right
Okay,
now?
I'm gonna read it. Okay, here, I'm gonna read the poem. Here
Thank
it
you,
is.
Joy. Go ahead.
This wine and our chance meeting are no coincidence. The road here is behind us and the path ahead is unknown. Together, we share this moment. The time is now.
That's a
And
beautiful.
there's Kirk's
Aw.
name.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, you guys. Thank you.
Isn't it not perfect for this thing right here? Like, the time is now, to being able to have the capability to go online and to see each other and to hear these stories and share these moments together. And you know, when we go back, you know, 8 years ago when Ellie and I first went into this venture that was not supposed to be truly a wine venture, it was more real estate driven. And as Kirk mentioned briefly, you know, I met him again, or I saw him again. I hadn't been in Napa Valley for a few years, and so 2012 was when I came back, and you know, no intention to go into the wine industry. And it's some people like Kirk that, you know, are so passionate about what they do. You know, second generation winemakers. You know, his dad is a very well-known winemaker here in Napa Valley. Was one of the top winemakers that scored 100 points from Robert Parker back in the 1980s. So, you know, this is someone who has been in this region and in the valley since he was a kid and knows everything. And to have him say, hey, don't let anybody make your wine. I want to be the one doing that for you. I have a feeling about this. And, you know, I've been watching this property and I can't believe you got it. Let's do this. And, you know, it's all this passion, all these moments and serendipitous moments that happened that led us to where we are today, to even getting a property on Trancas Street where, you know, I was driving up and down, you know, and it's one of the first winery outside of the city limits. I mean, we are on the city limit. You can't get closer to the city of Napa in being in the county and being able to have 15 acres, you know, 6 of which are planted in amazing Cabernet Sauvignon and Cab Franc and Petit Verdot. And to have this property where Ellie and I were like, let's do this, you know, we took it over and I was bank owned at the time, and in a few years, turned something into something I feel that's very magical, that's very representative of who we are. And it's just, like you said, Joy, earlier, you know, that chic elegance and sort of like sophistication, but yet still rustic and down to earth, in my opinion. A lot of people don't know this about this, but when we first came in, you know, we used a lot of scrap wood or things that we felt like we purpose to create this atmosphere and the ambiance that we have in the tasting room. We were very fortunate that this could be done. And so here we are today, sort of like stepping back and thinking, oh my God, like we did this. And it takes everyone, but it also takes people that are on this screen right now who are big supporters and fan of our wines to have this. So I want to also thank all those wonderful drinkers of 1111 and supporters, and say thank you so much for supporting us through this time, supporting us through the past 8 years of us making 1111. You know, Tara and Luis Cortez had mentioned that they've known, you know, Holly, a hospitality director, for a long time, and they followed her because they like her, and they then fell in love with our wine. So stories like this are what make a great brand, and so thank you.
Wow.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
So, you know, Aurelien mentioned earlier that he doesn't want to show the bottom half because, you know, COVID's been a little tough on everybody. And Joy, your cookbook. So I did get him a copy and I said, this is what you need to start doing right here. So, you know, I mean, maybe you can share a little bit about how you've been experiencing talking to people about nutrition and, you know, during this time. I know, like, I love watching your stories and your cooking with your son. And, you know, maybe you can share a little bit about the nutrition side of it.
Sure. You know, I think in the beginning, when this first hit and everybody was instructed to sort of, you know, hunker down and quarantine, people kind of viewed it like a snow day. And they were very relaxed and unmotivated and stuffing lots of comfort foods into their faces and in and out of the kitchen. And by the way, like, my hand is raised. I was right up there too, health nuts included. And then I think what happened was, after the second week, the third week, and we were into a month, people started to think differently. And now it's a unique opportunity, I really do believe, for everybody to take care of their health. And every single physician that I speak with talks about the importance of strengthening our immune system. And when you have control over what you put into your body, there are a few things that we have control over right now, but we do have control over what we eat. And it's really not that hard. You can come out of this so much stronger, so much more capable, not only to fight off COVID, but to fight off other things that are going to get thrown in our direction in the future. So I think everybody really needs to take this seriously. And you don't have to be a chef, you know. Ryan, I'm sure, would agree with that as well. I mean, he's like the ultimate, right? I look at his Insta feed and those pictures. Meanwhile, Ryan, that potato salad was literally like work of art. I want to blow it up and put it in my living room. It's magnificent. The colors, I was just salivating over that.
You don't think I'm going to text you in a couple weeks to write the forward for me on that book? Don't worry, girl. That potato salad enticed you.
I'm totally here, but I need a full-on sample first. But like, the point being, I think it's a unique opportunity right now for everybody to really sort of reevaluate what they're eating. And it's relatively simple, right? We eat several times a day. We do have the control over what we put into our body. And simple little things. If you just go out of your way to incorporate a produce item into each and every meal, you don't have to turn your life upside down. Produce meaning vegetables and fruit. And by the way, if you can't get fresh, frozen is fine as well. They pick it in the peak of ripeness, they flash freeze. All of the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the fiber are all there within. And so for breakfast, if you have an omelet with vegetables or oatmeal with some berries on it, you check that box. For lunch, you could have a big voluminous salad, or you could have a stir fry or some sort of a yummy vegetable lentil soup. You check that box. For dinner, it could be just about anything from, you know, you could make a beautiful roast fish, or it could be some sort of chicken with mounds of roasted Brussels sprouts and broccoli and cully on the side. All of those things caramelize in the oven. It's so simple to make, and they're so flippin' delicious. So these are things that are relatively simple to whip together, but the key is to pre-plan, right? You got to know what you're going to be eating. So I think if everyone just sits down and they look at the week ahead and they say, okay, what am I going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And you don't have to have a different thing every single day, because we're creatures of habit. So if you just have 3 or 4 meals for each of the categories, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then fill in some snacks, you really will be so fine. It's not difficult. You just have to get your head in the game. You know, you have to believe in yourself. You have to want it. You have to think about what the payoff is. A little bit of effort now gives you a tremendous payoff. And it's not just about you, it's about your family as well. So I think now is the time to really take this seriously. And guys, also it's delicious. There's no compromising here. It's not about deprivation. It's about figuring out how to, make all of the healthy things that we, intuitively know are healthy: produce and lean proteins. If there's a meat and a chicken shortage, you can go for canned and dried beans and lentils. There's yogurt, eggs are still available. Oh my gosh, I could eat eggs for every single meal. Scrambled and omelets for breakfast, frittatas for dinner, like anything goes, egg salad for lunch. But there's so many different options out there. The key though is to, again, get your head in the game and then to pre-plan. You will feel markedly better. And I always tell everybody 48 hours of eating well, and you are on top of your game. You will automatically improve your groove. And then you feel so great, it snowballs. It takes on a life of its own. And there's room for wine always.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. I love it. Great advice. And okay, so I'm challenging you, Aurelian. You and we have to get on this.
Yes.
It's been fun. Like I like the fact that you also incorporate cocktails and wine. And yesterday I saw Ryan, you had a beautiful like cucumber wrapped drink for Cinco de Mayo. That was incredible. Tell us a little bit about that.
Can I describe it? Yeah, it was delicious. And I had a gallon of it. It was so good. Everything in moderation. You know what I've learned from this whole thing is people are kind of treating. I used to always say, you know what I love about the restaurant industry is, and I guess with wine and cocktails, is every day that ends in Y is somebody's holiday. It's somebody's anniversary. It's somebody's wedding. It's somebody's Valentine's Day. It's somebody's special day. What I'm starting to learn 7 weeks into COVID is that Grand Marnier that was saved for a really special, let's call it Cinco de Mayo, is now a Cadillac margarita for a lot of people, 7 days a week. And I really wanted to come up with something kind of a little inspired by Joy in showing people that a true cocktail, a really real cocktail, doesn't need cubes of sugar. It needs real natural ingredients. I got a really great silver tequila, which tequila is actually a go-to for a lot of health buffs. Is that true, Joy?
Yeah.
A lot of people use tequila as their go-to alcohol.
Yeah, no, tequila's great. Any of the straight alcohols, even, vodka, rum, tequila, they're fine. It's really the sugary mixers that you have to worry about. And a lot of people also claim that they don't feel as lousy in the morning after drinking tequila in the evening. But the bottom line is, like, whatever you are drinking when it comes to a cocktail, you just got to be really careful with the add-ons.
Exactly. And that was the inspiration from this one. So I wanted to use something, and it was kind of a little bit of COVID inspired. So I used a cucumber because I know everybody has some like a conventional, non-conventional, or a hothouse cucumber. And all I did was muddle that. I used 2 ounces of silver tequila. And here's the thing. It's all poured into a shaker, the same martini shaker that you make, the same Manhattan shaker that you make. We put that in there over ice, a little bit of kind of just bruised a couple cucumbers. Then I used agave. I find agave as a natural sweetener for my daughter, and I say this a lot, and I'm really, really proud of this. My daughter has never had sugar in its natural form in any of my baking and cooking that I've done for her. And I owe that a lot to Joy and friends that I'm inspired by. If you come to my house and you see I have about 2,000 cookbooks within the house in my office, and that's a lot. But, through this mood and through COVID, I've really leaned on just the things that I want to learn from. And Joy's new book that came out, and this is not a plug, this is a friend, real thing, is, agaves, honeys, and trying not to use sweeteners. And with this, I made a simple agave simple syrup that I went 3-to-1 water to agave versus doing two parts. Add a little bit of that. I used Grand Marnier. Grand Marnier is the Cadillac, the Mercedes-Benz, the G-Wagon of Cointreau. And I did a splash of that, shake it, poured it over some cucumbers that we very nicely made the cocktail look the way it did. And, everything's in moderation. I've got to say, like a lot of friends, my happy hour has moved from 5 o'clock to now 1:30. So, I've been working on that a little bit, but, but I pretend that it's 1:30 that I'm at Joy Bauer's house. So it's technically only a half an hour before 5.
This is true. Ryan always knows how to beat the system. I love this. I love that about you. Wait, I actually have another great idea for all of you to try. If you take one of your sweeter white wines, and then you could probably also do it with a Syrah, although, I mean, I would never use any of the Syrah for this because I just want to sip it solo. But if you take any of your white wines, it would be 1 cup in a blender with 2 cups of frozen pitted sweet cherries, nothing, just plain frozen cherries, and a 1/2 cup of frozen pineapple chunks. And you will make yourself the most delicious frozen, like a frosé, frozen cocktail, like really, really special. And then suddenly you have a cocktail loaded with antioxidants.
I think this has taught a lot of people that freezer is not an enemy, it's actually a friend. And I think if you understand that, and Joy was talking about IQF in the culinary world, it means individually quick frozen. Everything, even tomatoes are only in season 3 months out of the year, peak season. So when you're getting those San Marzanos or you're getting those plum tomatoes in a can, they were picked and peeled during their peak season. Blueberries, raspberries, pineapple. I mean, I've come to the point to where I've now taken my bananas, the overripened bananas. I cannot come up with another banana recipe, by the way. I can. I'm bananaed out.
I'm totally obsessed. Also, I have like an entire shelf of all my frozen bananas. I look forward to them turning brown and speckled, so I can peel them and freeze them and use them in something yummy because they become a natural sweetener.
Sweetener all the way. All the way.
And also the texture, it makes anything like luxuriously creamy.
I'll post on 1111's site is the banana pancake that came up through COVID for my daughter. It's a non-sugar related banana. It's 2 bananas. It's 2 cups of, it's 1 cup of milk, whole milk. I use something local. It's 2 eggs. You can use egg whites if you want, and I'll post this on with you guys. It's 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, baking powder, because the two together, baking soda and baking powder, kind of chemically work to where you get the height and you get the width at the same time with the pancake. A teaspoon of salt and a little bit of vanilla, and the banana is only sugar that's in there, and it's all the ripened bananas. But Joy, I've been dicing them up and freezing them in dices and bags, and until COVID, I would just throw the whole banana in the freezer and then I have to let it thaw. But having those little chunks to throw in a smoothie, having them to throw in a pancake already diced up and frozen, I've learned from that.
Now, what you could also do with those frozen bananas is you put them straight into a food processor with maybe like a small dollop of natural peanut butter. And if the bananas are very frozen, possibly a splash of almond milk, and it whips up into the most delicious banana ice cream, soft serve banana ice cream.
No way, really?
So delicious, so delicious.
Joy and I are writing our next book as we speak to all of you, drinking 1111 wine. By the way,
Ellie, you guys will be writing the forward.
Yes, it's sponsored by you guys.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right.
That's awesome.
But one other thing I was going to say, Ellie, about the frozen, which is a really good point. Right now, because people are worried about buying fresh herbs and fresh ingredients, and then they can't go through them quick enough, and it's heartbreaking to throw them out. So what I tell people to do is to double and triple recipes now, and then to portion control the leftovers and start a big stash in your freezer, because then basically what you're doing is you're creating your very own healthy takeout with home cooked meals. So that's another good reason to go for frozen.
Yeah, if you have the space, it's about $600 for the old, I call them the grandma freezer. My grandmother had 2 of them. The lift lid one, and I put one in the garage the other day. I found one online for $600. And paying attention.
Home Depot too, they're really cheap. I get one all the time.
What's that?
I say we have one in the commercial kitchen at the winery from Home Depot, and it works perfect.
I think it's a phenomenal investment, and it's especially a lot of things. Strawberries right now, especially in Marin County, San Francisco, 2 pounds are $1.99. So wow. I started just peeling and cleaning all the strawberries and freezing them. And this is a moment to really kind of be the cook you've always wanted to do. If you've never made sourdough, you can do that. And there's lots of great inspiration out there, and everybody is doing videos right now, and there's a lot to learn from them. So
I think you can find yeast though, because there is no yeast in any stores. So then you can start your own.
Okay, you ready for this? Here is my ultimate trick for like no yeast bagels and rolls. You take 2 cups of flour. I use whole wheat flour, but if you can't get a hold of whole wheat flour, you can certainly use all purpose. So 2 cups. And then 2 cups of a non-fat Greek yogurt. For whatever reason, it really should be a non-fat. It just works better in this recipe. And
versus then a full fat, huh?
Exactly. Go for the non-fat in this one. And the thicker consistency brands work best. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio, 2 cups flour, 2 cups yogurt, and then I add 1 tablespoon of baking powder. And that's it. Mix the whole thing together. It'll be all sort of crumbly and you'll say, Joy, this is not turning into a dough. Make sure your hands are clean, get in there, start to knead it. You will get this great, gorgeous, elastic-like dough. And then all I do is I separate them into balls. I roll them, I make long tubes and I shape them into bagels, and you cook them for about 25 minutes on a middle rack, no yeast needed. I think 375 degrees, and they come out perfect. And if you want to take it to the next level before you put them in the oven, you can dip the tops in like the Trader Joe's anything but the bagel, or you can make your own combination. I do things with pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds and poppy seeds. So totally delicious. No yeast.
Joy Bauer.
That's
ladies and gentlemen.
awesome.
Yeah.
By the way, my mom makes those bagels, and my mom is Joy's biggest fan, and she always texts me and says, let Joy know. So I send Joy a lot of texts letting her know how much my mom makes her food.
His mom's name is Pat, and she's like my most valuable follower.
Literally.
I want to do a toast to Pat.
Yay.
Literally,
Pat.
my mom's neighborhood has bagels for days because of Joy Bauer.
But you could also just make them into rolls, or you can make them into soft and doughy pretzels.
Yeah.
Because it's just a great standard dough for any direction you want to take it. I saw somebody online turn them into bialys the other day, which was really nice. She put onions on top.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Brian, so in addition to your catering company, because all this is making me really hungry actually as we're talking now between Joy
It's
and
very
me.
dangerous to put Ryan and I together and then to have us start talking about food. You will never get us to be quiet.
We love it. We love it. But you're also a restaurant owner. That's correct, right?
Yeah. We've a lot of them. During COVID, a lot of it, I've sold a lot of my shares in a lot of the restaurants that I have. Publicly online, Ryan Scott To Go is a restaurant in San Francisco. The restaurant that I had in the beginning of the year, we closed it down. And, there's a lot of the economics, and I don't think people understand this about the restaurant business. Today, if a restaurant can net per dollar, 10 cents a dollar, they're a profitable restaurant. If they're doing 12 to 13% per dollar, they're killing the game. And I think what a lot of people are understanding about the restaurant industry today is thin margins. And then during COVID, when a lot of people have transferred into and switched over to Grubhub, Caviar, catering. This is why I started my catering 13 years ago. I like to lead. I don't like to follow. And a lot of what we've been doing is using these platforms to feed people. I went from fully employing 7 weeks ago, 4 guys, nonstop, overtime, benefits, the whole thing. The restaurant industry doing well. I'm shooting in, Denver, where we were Salt Lake City, and then everything shut down. And, there was that moment for everybody. And that's why I really wanted to reevaluate what's going on. But I will say this about the restaurant industry. I didn't sign myself to a lease anymore. I sold out a lot of my options early. And I think one thing I've learned from a lot of this is trust your gut. Your gut is option A. Option B has not really been something I've played a lot of, played with that deck very often. And sometimes people may not think that you're the popular kid when you do what you do, but you know what? You got to trust yourself, and a lot of the lessons that we learn through gambling, through the economy, through the stock market has really taught me to sell out, just, 9-10 months ago, to sell out of my restaurant shares. But I will say this for the restaurateurs that are out there now. Cities like New York City and San Francisco that are allowing these restaurateurs to sell bottles of wine to the Joy Bauers and to the Tara and Luises that are out there that drive up, that want to support these places. We can't take that away from these restaurateurs when this is all over. Do you understand that we now have cut our restaurateurs and our people that own restaurants? We've cut their seats in half. You want to talk about 6 degrees of separation between seats. A 60-seat restaurant is now a 30-seat restaurant that was just gaining 13 to 10% profit per dollar. Now you cut that in half again at 6%. And now you're allowing them, and you're dangling this little thing of called selling alcohol and pre-batched cocktails and so on. I encourage the mayors and the governors of the state of California, all 50 and beyond, to rethink and reevaluate how we're running restaurant industry. You know, over 50 million people are in the restaurant industry, the hospitality restaurant industry and so on. And knowing that that is a large chunk of people that are applying for unemployment, we can't take one more thing away from. We can't dangle something like allowing to sell batched cocktails during COVID because it allows you to get your numbers back. But then, by the way, we're going to give you more regulations. 49 pages of COVID, guys. I just want people to know out there. 49 pages of COVID have come through the restaurant industry just in the Bay Area. You know, it was already hard, but now we have 49 more pages to live by. We should have already been living by those pages. That should have already been an education that we should have been practicing. So the governors, the mayors, you have to remember that these are people, this is paycheck by paycheck that they're living by. And I want to encourage people to, if you have a voice and allowed to have a voice, and that doesn't mean you have to have 125,000 followers on Instagram or 20,000, just speak up. Speak up out there and don't let them take away the only thing that we have, because without our restaurants, we don't have anything. Our restaurants feed our soul. There are anniversaries, there are Valentine's Day, there are holidays. And we're the ones during COVID wearing the masks that are in the kitchen, that are feeding people. And you're the ones supporting us. And we can't go backwards once this thing clears up, because in real life, I don't know if it's going to clear up for a while. I'm in today, I'm not in tomorrow. I don't practice anything but what we are practicing today as business owners. I practice today that is going to roll over until I'm told differently. And I really want to encourage that.
We appreciate that. And I hear you completely. I mean, 11/11, you know, as much as it is that we make wine and enjoy wine, it's always about like, how do we enjoy it with our food and with our company? And usually that's also about, you know, the restaurants that we're supporting too. So, and that's been something that's been close to our hearts. And we've been out there buying gift certificates as much as we can to give to our team and just to help everybody out. So that's been huge. So I appreciate your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I appreciate people doing that. That means a lot to everybody out there, and keep doing that. And remember, the moment that you can do it more, go and celebrate with them, go and pick up more, go and say hi to them, thank people. I wish that we can just change the cash register at the grocery store to where I can Venmo Kirk, the gentleman that's wearing a mask that has 3 people at home that he's trying to support during COVID, and he can't hear, no, you can't work. He has to hear in his head, I need to take care of my family. I wish I can Venmo him, when instead of asking me to donate to a charity that's in some other state on this little pad, let me donate to Kirk and give him $20 and let him take care of his family. Because you know what? Is taking care of me as I'm grocery shopping. There's a lot of rethinking during this.
100%. I mean, I love your passion, Ryan. That's why we love you. You're deep in it, and we're right there with you.
Thank you.
And since you were mentioning Kirk, which I love Kirk, I'd love to I'm going to throw the ball to you, Kirk, and ask you to share a little bit about what do you think 2020 is faring out for us in terms of the vineyards?
I like it. You know, I'm glad you asked. The other day, walking through our Trancas vineyard while the guys were doing what's called suckering. It's this, process by which we remove unwanted shoots. It's our first thinning pass basically through the vineyards. And what I saw out there was fantastic. Right now, we're going to start going through flowering, which is a very anticipated event. We just pray for good weather, no frost, no rain events, where all those individual flowers on a cluster will set and take place. But it looks to me like we were out the gates with good vigor. The cover crops finally grew. We had such a dry February. That was a little nerve-wracking, but then things started to work again. But I'm encouraged by what we've got. It looks like an even growing pattern out in the vineyards that we have. So, and throughout the valley. I mean, I see everything from, Calistoga to Carneros and all in between, and it's looking very good. A lot of good growth that we can remove and pick just the best pieces. So, not a frost year. We're out of the drought, so I'm encouraged by that. Although it was a dry February, so we'll see. But I think the vineyards have, they self-regulate, they tune themselves in. So I'm excited for 20.
Awesome. Well, we're thrilled. And I mean, gosh, I just can't believe I'm just looking at the clock and it's already 3:56. The time has gone so fast and I feel like we could go on and on, but in the spirit of appreciating and respecting everybody's time, I wanted to say thank you so much to Joy, Bauer, and Ryan, and encourage everyone to look to Amazon.com for your cookbook and to support Ryan's catering company. And we've been putting this, like our team's been kind of writing it all out on chat so everyone sees it. And we're really excited about just being able to spend time with everybody. And just, this is something new, right? Like we didn't know how this was going to work out today. And so we're just really thrilled to have you guys. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts, completely. Before I sign off, though, I just want to let everyone know that we are doing a couple more of these sessions. Next week on Thursday, we're going to have ESPN NBA announcer Mike Breen. And as I shared earlier, you know, Joy Bauer and Ryan Scott both had a connection somehow to us. Like we met people through people, and then they became kind of part of the 11 family. And Mike as well, he's on the East Coast, he's in New York. So he also is a club member of ours. So we're really thrilled to have him, as well as Tim Roy, who's the voice of the Warriors. So that will be next week. So if anyone's dying for a little sports talk, we're looking forward to that. And we'll probably be adding some musicians. We're firming all the details up there. But more importantly, we're just so thrilled to have everybody and thank our viewing audience for supporting 1111. And anything else want to say other than cheers, but thank you all.
Oh, Ellie, thank you so much. Yeah, this was a lot of fun for me. I am such a huge fan. And if we ever do a reunion, I think we should do it right in your tasting room.
I love it. I love it. I missed you last time, so I missed you both. And I miss all the team too, because I'm not in Napa. So lots of hugs and virtual kisses to everybody.
Love it.
Guys, with you all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye,
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.